For more than half a century, Jodie Foster has remained one of Hollywood's most respected and most enigmatic figures. She was the child prodigy who grew up in front of the camera, a two-time Oscar winner once hailed as the smartest brain in American cinema. But behind the dazzling spotlight stands a woman surrounded by mysteries. Audiences have always wondered, why does she live such a private life? Why did the woman who once shook the world with the silence of the lambs feel the need to hide the identity of her son's father? And what truly happened at age 62 that made Jodie Foster, after years of silence, leave Hollywood speechless once again? Behind that calm smile lies a story never fully told, a journey toward peace beneath the crushing weight of fame. Stay with us, because the story behind this woman will not only move you, but may just make you look back at your own life. Jodie Foster was born on November 19, 1962, in Los Angeles, California, the youngest of 4 siblings, Cindy, Connie, and Buddy. From the very beginning, her life was shaped by absence. Her father, Lucius Foster, was a decorated pilot in the Battle of Britain who later became a real estate broker. But while her mother, Evelyn Brandy Foster, was pregnant with Jodie, Lucius walked out and never came back. Jodie met her father only about 3 times in her life. In a 1993 interview with the Washington Post, she admitted, "I know he lives somewhere in Los Angeles." In 2011, Lucius was sentenced to 5 years in prison for defrauding elderly and low-income residents of more than $100,000. He was convicted of taking $5,000 deposits from his fake clients for low-cost container homes he never intended to build, and served just 7 months. Prosecutors alleged he used his famous daughter's name to lure victims into trusting him, but he denied it. "I never thought of using her name, and I still haven't," he told Inside Edition in 2013. Lucius tried to keep up with Jodie's career but made no effort to reconcile. "It's been a long time. My family is very divided now," he said. At the time, he was struggling financially, earning just $166 a week to get by. Yet he insisted he didn't expect help from anyone. "I don't need any help from anybody." Lucius died in 2016 after battling Alzheimer's disease. It was the final chapter of a father she never truly had, and his silence became the first scar on her soul. In their small Los Angeles home, Brandy Foster was both mother and pillar. She raised 4 children with remarkable strength and intellect, teaching them courage, discipline, and resilience. Jodie absorbed it all, like lightning in a bottle, full of energy but restrained, brilliant yet solitary. From an early age, Jodie showed signs of genius. She spoke full sentences at 9 months old, could read at 3, and read above grade level by 4. Teachers called her gifted. Her birth name was Alicia Christian Foster, but the nickname Jodie, given by her siblings after a close family friend, soon became her true name. As if destiny itself had rewritten her identity, a girl born to be different. Later in life, Jodie Foster would admit she never truly had a childhood. She started working before she even knew what it meant to play. But before fame found her, the wounds of solitude and isolation had already shaped her soul. Out of that emptiness, a fierce survival instinct was born, pushing the brilliant little girl into the adult world far sooner than anyone could have imagined. Jodie attended the Lycée Français de Los Angeles, a prestigious bilingual school for the children of artists and intellectuals. She became fluent in French from an early age and would later act and give interviews in the language with native-like fluency. That rigorous academic foundation helped her maintain a balance between art and life, between fame and discipline. Despite her packed filming schedule, Jodie consistently ranked at the top of her class. She was known for her discipline and extraordinary self-study habits. She graduated high school in 1980 as valedictorian and went on to earn a full scholarship to Yale University, one of America's most prestigious institutions. From 1980 to 1985, she majored in English literature at Yale, graduating magna cum laude. Her thesis focused on author Toni Morrison, reflecting her passion for language, identity, and humanity. Even while studying, she continued acting, appearing in 5 films during her college years, not for fame, but to pay tuition and support her family. Friends remembered her as someone who worked 16 hours a day, 8 hours on set, 8 hours studying, and never once late. In a reflective talk at Yale years later, Jodie described her student life with a mix of humor and nostalgia. For me, Yale was lying on the dorm floor crying, but also standing on top of the tower with a beer in hand, shouting, "Woo, woo, woo!" Darkness and pure exhilaration. That's what made it special. She loved the Hopper Dining Hall, the Bass Library, and the secret tunnels where she and friends would sneak off to smoke. At night, they gathered at the Anchor Bar, which she called my favorite place to laugh, to party, and to feel like a normal college student. Her most respected mentor was Professor Henry Louis Gates, Jr., who remains a close friend and advisor to this day. He was the one who taught her that knowledge doesn't live in lectures. It lives in the way we observe people. Jodie admitted she once suffered from imposter syndrome, the constant feeling that everyone around her was smarter and that she was merely pretending to understand. I thought my career would end when I turned 18. My mother always told me, "Your career will be over at 18, so who do you want to be when you grow up?" She assumed I couldn't be an actress forever, and I believed her. Yet she kept working, kept striving to make a living through her own talent. When filming The Accused, 1988, she recalled, "I watched the rough cut and thought, oh God, this movie is terrible and I'm awful in it. So I went and took the GRE, planning to go to graduate school. Then the film came out, and I won the Oscar." The story made the entire Yale audience laugh, but Jodie emphasized that the feeling of failure was real. It was what pushed her to always become a better version of herself. When asked what her greatest lesson at Yale was, she simply smiled and said she couldn't remember a single historical fact. But she remembered how people treated one another. Those lessons were painful, yet they helped her grow more than any classroom ever could. And when she spoke about friendship, she admitted that all her closest friends were from Yale. She'd made a few new ones over the years, but not many. From those nights crying on the dorm floor to the moment she held the Oscar in her hands, Yale was more than the place where Jodie Foster gained knowledge. It was where she learned to understand herself, to fail, to rise again, and to keep walking forward. Jodie Foster's path to the screen began purely by chance. Her mother, Brandy, was working as the manager for Jodie's older brother, Buddy Foster, a familiar child actor on American television in the late 1960s. One day, Buddy was invited to audition for a Coppertone sunscreen commercial, and 3-year-old Jodie tagged along simply so her mother could keep an eye on her. But when the director noticed the quiet, tomboyish little girl observing everything around her, he asked her to try a few expressions in front of the camera. Jodie nodded and did exactly as told, calmly, without the shyness of most children her age. The result? She got the job, and Buddy didn't. The commercial aired nationwide. The image of the cheeky little girl having her swimsuit tugged by a puppy became an advertising icon of the time. People began to recognize Jodie Foster's face before they even knew her name. For Brandy, it was more than a proud mom moment. It was an opportunity for stability, a way to support her 3 children after a broken marriage. Within just a year, Jodie had appeared in nearly 30 commercials. She was featured in ads for everything from children's clothing and toys to household products. The income came pouring in, and by age 4, Jodie was already earning more than her mother. Since entertainment laws protecting child actors were still loose at the time, Brandy had to set up a trust fund to safeguard her daughter's earnings until she came of age. Jodie never thought of herself as the family's breadwinner, but she could feel the rhythm of life changing. Early mornings on set, school days replaced by filming schedules, and adult conversations centered not on lessons or play dates, but on putting her in front of the camera instead of at a desk. Between the ages of 5 and 13, Jodie appeared in more than 50 television shows and films, including The Courtship of Eddie's Father, Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, My Three Sons, Gunsmoke, and The Magical World of Disney. She was often cast in roles that required alertness and quick emotional understanding, things few children could grasp. Directors remarked that Jodie always arrived on time, knew her lines perfectly, and worked with the focus of an adult actor. No one had to tell her what to do. She learned by watching, absorbing everything on set. But the darker side of the industry came early. In 1972, while filming Napoleon and Samantha alongside young actor Michael Douglas and a trained lion, Jodie experienced one of the most terrifying moments of her life. During a scene, the lion suddenly lunged at her, bit into her dress, and dragged her to the ground. In panic, the adults around her ran off the set, leaving the 8-year-old girl face to face with the 200-kilogram animal. The trainer rushed in and shouted commands until the lion released her. Jodie sustained injuries to her hip and was taken straight to the hospital. Yet just 3 days later, she returned to finish filming. No one forced her. She simply understood that the work had to go on. That incident left her with a lasting fear of large animals. She later said that even household cats made her uneasy for years afterward. It was also the moment she realized that acting wasn't just about smiling at the camera. It was a demanding, sometimes dangerous profession. Still, that same resilience, her refusal to back down, caught the attention of major filmmakers. Among them was Martin Scorsese, who would soon offer her a role that would change her life forever: Iris in Taxi Driver. In the years that followed, Jodie Foster became one of Hollywood's most remarkable young faces, but the true turning point came in 1976 when she played Iris, a 12-year-old sex worker, in Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver, a role that shook America to its core. The shock wasn't just that she was too young for such a character, but that her performance captured corruption, innocence, and despair all at once, in a way audiences couldn't look away from. At just 13, Jodie Foster was already more seasoned than many of the adults around her, including director Scorsese and co-star Robert De Niro. She had previously worked with Scorsese on Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and it was that film that convinced him to call her personally for Taxi Driver, without even holding an audition. "My mom thought he was crazy," Jodie later recalled. "I showed up in my school uniform, a gray pleated skirt, white collar, blue blazer. When she heard I was playing a 12-year-old prostitute, she just sighed and said, 'If you believe she can do it, it's your call.' And she did it, in a way no one expected. When Taxi Driver was released, it became a cinematic phenomenon, both controversial and celebrated. Set against the grim, decaying backdrop of 1970s New York, a city drowning in crime, poverty, and post-Vietnam disillusionment, Scorsese crafted a visual nightmare, and Jodie Foster became its haunting, fragile heart. Film critic Roger Ebert called her performance a chillingly perfect choice. The film grossed over $21 million on a modest $1.3 million budget, an enormous success for its time, and was later preserved by the U.S. National Film Registry for its cultural, historical, and artistic significance. Taxi Driver was not only Scorsese's masterpiece, but also an earthquake in the way Hollywood portrayed minors on screen. At just 13, Foster earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, competing against actresses twice her age. Behind the scenes, there were stories that were both unsettling and oddly human. During her costume fitting, Jodie burst into tears when she saw what she had to wear: short shorts, a halter top, and platform shoes, which she later called the most horrifying outfit of my life. I was 12. I'd never gone without underwear before, and they made me wear that, she recalled. I just wanted it to be over so I could go home. Because of the role's sensitivity, the production had to strictly follow child protection laws. Foster was only allowed to film 4 hours a day, a social worker was present at all times, and her sister Connie served as her body double for the suggestive scenes. Robert De Niro, already a major star, quietly became her mentor. He would take Foster to coffee shops, running lines and improvising in character to help her grasp what it meant to create a role. I was too young to fully understand, Foster later said, but he made me realize that acting isn't pretending. It's searching for the truth in every glance. Even Scorsese was astonished by her instinct. She didn't need direction, he said. Jodie understood her character's emotions as if she'd lived them. A frightening intellect in the body of a child. Upon release, Taxi Driver not only topped the U.S. box office for weeks, but became a cultural mirror, reflecting the moral decay and alienation of post-war America and marking the start of a bold new era of gritty realism in film. As BFI later wrote, Travis Bickle, the lonely taxi driver lost in the urban inferno, was a prophetic image of the outcasts who would haunt America for decades to come. After graduating from Yale in 1985 with a degree in literature, Jodie Foster transitioned from child prodigy to adult actress, appearing in a series of modest, often overlooked films through the mid-1980s. Then in 1988, she returned with The Accused, taking on the role of Sarah Tobias, a young woman brutally assaulted in a bar who must fight not only her attackers, but an entire legal system and a society steeped in prejudice to reclaim her dignity. The screenplay was inspired by a real case in Massachusetts. Yet when Foster accepted the part, few believed she could go that far. The role demanded that she expose the rawest emotions of humiliation, fear, and defiance in a film so psychologically harrowing that even the crew had to stop shooting at times. Foster didn't perform the role in a traditional way. Instead, she withdrew, allowing audiences not to see a helpless victim, but a woman fighting to reclaim her worth. That restraint made her performance infinitely more powerful. When The Accused premiered, Hollywood seemed jolted awake after years of ignoring the real victims of gender-based violence. The rape scene, nearly 10 minutes long on screen, was filmed over 5 excruciating days, an ordeal so intense that several crew members walked off set. Foster later said she had to shut down emotionally just to survive it. But the real shock came after the first test screening. Male viewers reacted coldly, some even muttering, "She had it coming." Paramount nearly canceled the release. Director Jonathan Kaplan then arranged a private screening for an audience of women, many of them survivors themselves. When the lights came up, the entire room stood, crying and applauding. That moment saved the film and turned The Accused into a landmark of justice and vindication for women. The film became a defining voice for the late 1980s feminist movement, and Jodie Foster received her first Academy Award for Best Actress. When she walked onto the stage to accept it, she didn't smile, didn't pose. She simply said, "Thank you for believing I could do this." It wasn't just gratitude. It was a statement from a woman who had long been doubted for being too intelligent, too composed, and too different from what Hollywood considered ideal. 3 years later, Foster proved that her victory was no fluke. In 1991, she took on the role of Clarice Starling in The Silence of the Lambs, one of the most complex and beloved female characters in film history. Clarice was an FBI trainee, strong yet fragile, driven by inner wounds she could never quite escape. Opposite her stood Hannibal Lecter, the brilliant cannibal psychiatrist portrayed by Anthony Hopkins. The entire film revolved around the tense psychological duel between two lonely minds, one representing order and justice, the other destruction and dark intellect. Foster admitted she couldn't sleep for weeks after reading the script, saying, "Clarice isn't just afraid of the monster, she's afraid of the darkness inside herself." To prepare, she visited real FBI training facilities, spoke with female agents, and studied how they endured isolation in a male-dominated world. Throughout filming, Foster and Hopkins avoided speaking off-set, at director Jonathan Demme's request, to preserve the psychological distance between Clarice and Lecter. Foster later said, "I only knew his voice. I couldn't even look at him outside of our scenes. I was genuinely afraid of him." During their first face-to-face exchange through the prison bars, one of cinema's most iconic moments, Foster trembled so much she couldn't meet Hopkins's eyes. When the director called cut, Hopkins turned to her, smiled gently, and said, "You did very well, Clarice." "I still get chills when I think about that moment," Foster recalled. "It was the first time in my life I truly understood what it meant to face a character larger than yourself." When The Silence of the Lambs premiered, it became a global phenomenon, sweeping all 5 major Academy Awards: Best Picture, Director, Actor, Actress, and Adapted Screenplay, a rare feat in film history. Foster took home her second Oscar, and Clarice Starling entered popular culture as the enduring symbol of a woman unafraid of the dark, but brave enough to walk into it and bring back the light. Time once wrote, "Jodie Foster doesn't just play Clarice. She lives within her fear, turning that fear into a shared language for every woman who's ever had to prove herself in a man's world." From The Accused to The Silence of the Lambs, Jodie Foster traveled between 2 very different roles connected by the same thread of spirit, the fight to be heard, to be seen, and to be respected as a human being. No longer the lost little Iris wandering through New York, the Jodie Foster of the early 1990s had become a symbol of intellect, strength, and female autonomy in modern cinema. The press called it a historic double, a 29-year-old actress earning 2 Oscars, standing alongside legends like Katharine Hepburn and Ingrid Bergman. But Foster didn't lose herself in victory. After The Silence of the Lambs, she quietly disappeared for months. No parties, no interviews, no celebration of fame. Instead, she returned to the set as a director, explaining simply, "I didn't want to keep telling other people's stories. I wanted to tell my own." In 1991, she directed Little Man Tate, a small but delicate film about a gifted boy trapped between expectation and loneliness. The story mirrored her own childhood, and critics praised its humanity and emotional depth. Home for the Holidays, 1995, continued that journey. Humorous, tender, and infused with a distinctly feminine sensitivity rarely seen in Hollywood at the time. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, Foster solidified her status through a series of powerful, intelligent performances. Contact, Panic Room, Inside Man, The Brave One, and more. In every film, she wasn't merely acting, she was shaping emotion itself. Everyone agrees that on screen, Jodie Foster confronts monsters, challenges systems, and walks straight into the darkness. But in real life, she chose the opposite. A life of quiet restraint. No parties, no public confessions, no displays for attention. She closed the doors to her private world. Yet in an industry where every secret has a price, her silence became the greatest mystery of all. Love entered Jodie Foster's life as quietly as the way she had always lived. In 1993, on the set of Summersby, she met Sydney Bernard, a production coordinator known for her calm and thoughtful nature. They quickly found in each other what both had long been missing, a steady home where neither had to perform. From then on, they built a silent sanctuary in Los Angeles, a place without cameras, without reporters, filled only with the sound of children and the smell of morning coffee. With Sydney, Jodie allowed herself to be vulnerable for the first time. When she decided to become a mother, she explained, "I don't believe in the perfect family model. I believe in love that's real enough to teach your children courage." Foster carried both her sons, Charlie, born 1998, and Kit, born 2001. Having grown up under constant scrutiny, she protected them fiercely, paying schools to keep paparazzi away, using pseudonyms in hospitals, and refusing to reveal their biological father's identity. For years, the question, "Who is the father of Jodie Foster's children?" became an obsession for tabloids, spawning rumors about former co-stars, close friends, and even anonymous donors. But Jodie never wavered, simply saying, "My children will know when they're ready. Not when the public demands it." When pressed further, she smiled and replied, "I never promised the world they'd know everything about me. I only promised my children I'd always be honest with them." Foster's privacy was so absolute that even her family was drawn into the storm of speculation. In 1997, her brother Buddy Foster suddenly released Foster Child, a biography of Jodie Foster, in which he implied that Jodie had once lived with an older designer and that their mother, Brandy Foster, was gay. The book caused an immediate uproar and deeply wounded Jodie, who had always refused to discuss her private life. She responded with an uncharacteristically sharp statement to the press. "My family and I consider him a distant acquaintance, driven only by greed and jealousy." What hurt her most wasn't the exposure, but the way he portrayed their mother, the woman who had spent her life raising 4 children through hardship. Foster wrote, "I only feel sorrow for my 69-year-old mother, a woman who has lived her entire life with dignity and strength." After that incident, Foster almost completely severed ties with her brother. She shut herself off from the world, and her silence became a gilded cage, one that protected her, yet also confined her. While Jodie longed to keep everything private, Sydney Bernard wished for a life that was less hidden, a love that could be seen, not concealed. That quiet difference slowly became a fracture, not out of betrayal, but erosion, the kind caused by too many secrets. In 2008, after nearly 14 years together, they quietly parted ways. There was no scandal, no bitterness. They chose to co-parent their 2 sons. As Jodie once said, "Our children keep us together in the most important way." It wasn't until 2013, at the Golden Globe Awards, when Jodie Foster received the Cecil B. DeMille Award, that she came out publicly, in her own understated way. No declaration, no drama, just a calm smile and the words, "I already came out 1,000 years ago." If you've been a public figure since childhood, you understand the value of privacy better than anyone. It wasn't just a coming out moment. It was liberation. The instant she freed herself from the fear of being seen. A year later, she married Alexandra Hedison, an international photographer, former actress, Melrose Place, Pray, The L Word, and director of the short film In the Doghouse. Born in 1969, Alexandra came from an artistic family. Her father, David Hedison, played James Bond. Her mother, Bridget Hedison, was a producer. She had previously dated Ellen DeGeneres, but chose a quieter life afterward, devoting herself to photography and home design in Hollywood Hills West. The wedding between Jodie and Alexandra took place in April 2014, a private ceremony attended only by close family, with no engagement announcement. Since then, they have rarely shared details about their life together. In a 2024 interview with The Guardian, Foster said, "We like working independently, but we do collaborate sometimes, like when I produced her short film Alok." Alexandra, on the other hand, has never hidden her pride. Before the 2021 Golden Globes, she posted a photo on Instagram, writing, "I'm proud to be a wife every day, but today I'm shouting it from the rooftops. Congratulations, Jodie." They appeared together at Cannes 2021, when Jodie received an honorary Palme d'Or, and again at the Golden Globes that same year, where Foster gently kissed her wife on live television. It was a quiet yet powerful moment. Love doesn't need declarations. It only needs to live honestly. Today, Jodie and Alexandra lead a simple life in their hillside Los Angeles home. In the mornings, Alexandra brews the coffee while Jodie walks the dogs. In the evenings, they have dinner with Charlie and Kit in a room filled with Alexandra's photographs. No paparazzi, no spotlight. Just the warm light of peace. From Sidney Bernard to Alexandra Hedison, Jodie Foster completed the journey of a woman once terrified of being seen, to someone who could finally step forward and smile at the world. After years of being defined by her roles, by scandal, and even by betrayal within her own family, she ultimately redefined herself. Freedom isn't about speaking out. It's about no longer being afraid when others know. Some say Jodie Foster chose silence out of instinct, but in truth, that silence was born from fear. A fear that took root very early, the fear of having her private life exposed and devoured by the public. Long before she came out, long before she became known as Hollywood's most private woman, Foster had already endured the nightmare of seeing her personal life dragged into the headlines, in a story where she herself was completely innocent. Because at just 18, as a freshman at Yale, she learned a brutal truth. Fame can turn a real person into the symbol of someone else's madness. Back in 1976, when Taxi Driver premiered, Jodie Foster was only 13. She played Iris, the lost child prostitute, wandering through the neon night of New York, rescued by the unhinged hero Travis Bickle, played by Robert De Niro. The film became a cultural emblem of post-war American isolation and violence. But Foster could never have imagined that this role would soon be tied to one of the most terrifying real-life tragedies of her life. In 1980, when Foster was 18 and had just started at Yale, a young man named John Hinckley Jr., the son of a wealthy Texas family, became obsessed with her. Hinckley watched Taxi Driver dozens of times and convinced himself that he and Foster shared a mystical bond. In his disturbed mind, Jodie wasn't just an actress, she was Iris, a girl who needed to be saved. Foster began receiving handwritten letters from Hinckley, filled with disturbing declarations of love and a longing to do something great to get her attention. At first, she dismissed them as the ramblings of an overzealous fan. But as the letters piled up, dozens of them, some containing veiled threats and blurry photographs, she grew uneasy. She reported them to the police and was advised to keep her identity and movements private. On March 30th, 1981, President Ronald Reagan was shot outside the Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. The world was stunned, And when the gunman was identified as John Hinckley Jr., everything around Jodie Foster collapsed. In his confession, Hinckley stated that he shot the president to impress Jodie Foster. The 18-year-old Yale student suddenly became the unwilling center of an international media storm. Headlines screamed, "The girl who inspired the presidential assassin." Reporters swarmed Yale, chasing photos and ambushing her classmates. Jodie, who had spent her whole life avoiding the spotlight, was now trapped inside it. After the incident, she developed a deep fear of cameras, of the sound of shutters, of the feeling of being watched. In her essay, "Why Me?" published in Esquire in 1982, Foster wrote that she felt robbed of her own life, as though the world had rewritten her story without asking permission. For years afterward, she lived in a constant state of alert. She recalled how, while studying at Yale, a bodyguard once tackled her to the ground in class after mistaking a sudden movement for danger. And during her one and only stage performance at the university, she experienced another shock. A man showed up to the theater armed with a gun, saying he wanted to meet Jodie Foster. In a 2024 interview with actress Jodie Comer for Interview magazine, Foster finally opened up about that traumatic time. "The only play I ever did in college came with so much psychological trauma. I was in the middle of a 2-week run when Hinckley shot the president. The world fell apart. Secret Service everywhere, I had a bodyguard. They moved me into hiding. And yet I still naively thought, the show must go on." When she returned to the stage, she noticed a strange man sitting in the front row, night after night. Mid-performance, she broke character, glared at him, and shouted, "You, mother-er!" The next day, police discovered that the man she had shouted at was carrying a gun. "I thought I could get through it," Foster later said, "but maybe that's why I never wanted to do theater again. I loved the stage, but I could never make that commitment again." The assassination attempt didn't just shatter Foster's sense of safety. It completely changed the way she viewed the public. In a 2021 episode of the WTF podcast with Mark Maron, she called it the strangest moment of my life. Something unreal, yet leaving a very real scar. 40 years later, when John Hinckley Jr. was released from psychiatric supervision in 2022, he issued a public apology to all of his victims, including Jodie Foster. "I've felt remorse for many years. If I could take it all back, I would. I wasn't a good person. I was mentally ill and couldn't tell right from wrong." Foster said nothing. No comment, no reaction. In that silence, perhaps, lay an entire lifetime of exhaustion, the fatigue of being dragged into someone else's madness. Many believe the Hinckley incident changed Jodie forever, pushing her to retreat from openness, to live quietly and pour herself only into her art. Yet within that darkness, she was reborn. The Accused, 1988, and The Silence of the Lambs, 1991, two roles that earned her Oscars, transforming her from a victim into the author of her own story. "I learned what it feels like to be turned into a symbol," she said years later. "But all I ever wanted was to be a normal person, not someone else's idea of who I should be." She no longer wanted her private life to be public property, or her pain to be someone else's entertainment. Jodie Foster is one of the few artists who have grown up alongside American cinema, from child actress to intellectual filmmaker, without ever losing her identity. For more than half a century, she has reshaped the way Hollywood views women, no longer as beauty to be admired, but as intellect to be reckoned with. Through The Accused and The Silence of the Lambs, she ushered in a new era of complex female leads, strong yet wounded, resilient yet deeply human, paving the way for a generation of actresses like Julianne Moore, Cate Blanchett, and Jessica Chastain. The women Foster portrayed became the archetype for the woman against the system, a figure now embedded in the language of modern cinema. As a director, Little Man Tate, Money Monster, The Beaver, she inspired many women behind the camera to step forward in an industry still shadowed by gender bias. Beyond her artistry, Foster stands as a cultural icon of privacy and personal freedom. A woman who dared to insist that the public does not own an artist's life. Her silence, in its own way, became a louder statement than any speech could ever make. "I don't need to be seen everywhere," she once said. "I just want to be remembered for what I've left behind." And indeed, Jodie Foster leaves behind more than films. She leaves behind a new standard for dignity, intellect, and courage in art. After more than half a century in the spotlight, Jodie Foster has entered this stage of her life with the calm assurance of someone who understands the value of silence and of choosing what truly matters. She is no longer the naive Iris or the fearless Clarice Starling, but a 62-year-old woman who knows exactly when to step onto the stage and when to return to the quiet rhythm of everyday life. Foster now lives in Los Angeles with her wife, Alexandra Hedison. The two continue to lead a simple, grounded life, far from the noise of the media. In the mornings, Alexandra brews coffee while Jodie walks the dogs. In the evenings, they share dinner with their sons, Charlie and Kit, now grown. In one of her rare interviews, Foster said she has found real balance, not between work and family, but between the public and myself. After years of relative quiet, 2025 marked a brilliant milestone in Foster's ongoing return. On January 5th, at the 82nd Golden Globe Awards, she won Best Actress in a Limited or Anthology Series for her role as Detective Liz Danvers in HBO's True Detective Night Country. It was more than an artistic triumph. It was a reaffirmation that Jodie Foster continues to write her own legacy. In her acceptance speech, she thanked the entire crew and paid special tribute to the real stories of the indigenous people of northern Alaska, the true inspiration behind the series. "They changed my life, and I hope they'll change yours too." She also dedicated the award to her sons, Charlie and Kit, with a quiet but meaningful message. "I hope you understand the joy that comes from doing good work, hard, meaningful, and true." The victory drew praise from critics worldwide, celebrating the extraordinary comeback of a veteran star and revealing a new side of Jodie Foster, still sharp and brilliant, but warmer, wiser, and more compassionate than ever. Beyond her work in film, Jodie Foster quietly dedicates herself to social causes, from supporting women's and children's rights in the entertainment industry to advocating for LGBTQ+ communities. She never calls herself an activist, but her voice speaks through the deeply human stories she chooses to tell in works like The Mauritanian and True Detective, Night Country, films that give voice to those who are too often unheard. Foster's living spaces reflect who she is, serene, refined, and understated. Over the years, she has owned several luxury properties, a sleek 7,500-square-foot home in Beverly Hills, sold in 2019, a Spanish-style villa in Hollywood Hills, an apartment in Manhattan, and a quiet retreat in the south of France. Yet, despite her wealth, she has always preferred a minimalist lifestyle. She drives her own electric car, and the garage that once held a Mercedes and Range Rover now sits mostly empty. Her net worth is estimated at around $100 million, but what she values most is the freedom from material excess. In terms of health, Jodie keeps a steady routine of hiking, swimming, and yoga, not to maintain her figure, but to stay grounded. She once said, "Wrinkles are the sentences of time. I don't want to erase them. I want to read them." Today, besides occasionally returning to acting, Jodie Foster spends more time directing and producing, pursuing stories that are intimate, authentic, and meaningful. In Hollywood's eyes, she is more than a legend. She is a symbol of endurance, dignity, and personal freedom. Proof that even in the loudest world imaginable, one can still live truthfully without losing one's own light. After more than 60 years of life, Jodie Foster's story seems to have found its quiet, measured rhythm, the kind that belongs to those who have journeyed far enough to understand that happiness isn't in the applause, but in the peace that comes when the curtain falls. Perhaps, after everything, what she seeks is no longer glory, but the freedom to live in tune with her own breath. And maybe, in the moment we pause to listen to her life, we are also learning to listen to our own. If her story makes you reflect on what you've missed amid the noise of life, leave a gesture of appreciation, and don't forget to subscribe so we can continue preserving the stories worth telling with quiet hearts and gratitude.